Hello, this is Alex Calvo Garcia. You're listening to the Iron Hour podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Iron Hour podcast. It's Barry here, and I'm joined by Marco. How you doing, Marco?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. How are you guys?
All good, mate. All good. We've also got the Superman, Mr. Max. But I don't know where it's got, mate. I'm so tired. Just roll with it. How you doing, Max?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. I'm all right, thanks, Barry. I reckon you must still be knackered from Darlington. Did you drive home? Did it not go well?
I drove home. I mean, it was absolutely Baltic. I texted Humberside as I was walking back to the car. I swear to God, mate, when I got back in the car, I've got frost on the hood of my coat, and my fingers had frost under the fingernails. I've never known it like it.
Well, all right. I mean, it sounds like it was absolutely freezing. Did the football at least warm your heart?
Well, I'm going to be controversial, Max, and say it probably wasn't as bad as what people were saying on Twitter. Do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the game against Blythe, in as much as, do you remember
Did we
how?
secretly concede a 95th minute equaliser?
No,
What?
not that, not that. Do you remember how? Obviously, you and I were there, and at the game, we thought it was a reasonable performance and nothing over the top. And then Twitter went into an absolute meltdown from people who'd kind of seen it on TV, and it was just like a completely different perspective. It was a little bit like that. I thought, I thought Darlington were the better team, but it was a decent result, really. If I'm being completely honest, I thought we did okay. I didn't think we
So,
did great, but it was all
so,
right.
I listened to it on Humberside, and you are right. You definitely get a different vantage point depending on if you're listening to it, if you're watching it, if you're there in the flesh. Now, to me, it sounded like at times the back four, and I'm going to say that back four because obviously me and you were having a chat on Tuesday before the game about whether or not it'd be a 4 or 5. It sounded like it was a good defensive performance from the back four and Fitzsimmons. Is that fair? Would one of them have been your man of the match?
Yeah, Fitzsimmons will definitely be my man of the match, which on the face of it then points to the fact that we've been poor. If your keeper's winning man of the match, immediately you would then think there's something wrong. But as I say, I know I sound like a broken record here, Max, but everything in my mind is framed against what I expect and what my reasonable expectations are for this season. And I know I'm not really aligned with a lot of other fans, but because I said I thought we'd finish fifth at the start of the season, a point away on a Tuesday night at Darlington seems okay. And like we're not gonna by my own kind of levels, like we're not gonna blow them away, and we didn't. We're not going to get blown away, and we didn't. We probably weren't the better team, but it was all right. I don't know what else to say, really. It was okay.
Uh, Marco, I guess just because of what Barra said there about expectations, before the Leamington game, obviously we've got Leamington and um, Darlington coming up in 3 days. Would you have taken 4 points?
Yeah, 100%. A couple of points that the commentators touched on. I watched it through the new streaming platform with Dazen, and they said, like, look, well, to be fair, he said he listened to the I Know podcast, which was really nice, so a big shout out to them. And he
Somebody's got to.
said,
And we asked you to clip it and you couldn't. Oh, I'm watching it on my laptop.
The general consensus was that us guys would have took 4 points, and I think, yeah, nail on the head. I think, look, they said a sign of a good team, a team at the top, win your home games, come to tough places like Darwin on an awful night, and pick up a point, and it's good. Very similar to Chester, where look, Twitter said we were poor, but you take a point beforehand. Yes, we'd have probably been looking to take all three at Darwin, especially following a good form at Leamington, but it's not the end of the world. Alfreton at home next, and yeah, 4 points in a week. We can't ask too much more, really. It's a new shape, it's a new system. Yeah, when you take a step back, it's not too bad. But to counter Barra and to sort of have a little bit of perspective, it was dull. It was very dull. I mean, I've never watched a game on the TV and had neck ache. It was like the
from
world's
from all the long balls.
It was like the world watching two two world's tallest ping pong players just hitting it up to each. Oh my God. And I really just hope we don't fall into that trap of, oh, there's a really big 6'6" striker up there. Can I bring this ball down with snow on? Which last night was probably quite achievable. But yeah, it was not for the faint-hearted, definitely.
That's really interesting about the conditions, actually, because at Leamington, I didn't think we really did lots of that. I don't know if that's because they were put off by the rain and the howling wind. So if you went for a big long ball, you took your life in your own hands as to where it was going to end up. Marco, Barra, Marco has compared it to the Chester performance there. I mean, obviously we were both there for that, and it wasn't great. Is that a fair comparison, or do you think that it's a little bit different?
I think that's a harsh comparison. I was at both those games. I thought Chester, I don't think we performed well at all. I remember leaving the stadium being extremely disappointed with how we performed that day. I mean, I thought the whole day was just not very nice. I mean, there was afters on the pitch afterwards as well, which was a bit weird. I left that game a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, thinking we could have and should have performed much better. Again, possibly I'm in the minority, Max, but I didn't think that last night. I thought Darlington set up really well. They played really well. They created lots of chances. And yeah, I suppose there's the argument that if Fitzsimmons doesn't put in the performance he does, then we possibly get blown away 4-0 again. But he did, and we looked reasonably comfortable. I mean, my frustration would be around the fact that our first shot on target was a pretty lame free kick in the last couple of minutes. That's disappointing. But as Andy Butler said in his post-match interview on Humberside, sometimes you can kind of get drawn into shots on target as being like a key indicating stat. We did also have two shots which narrowly went wide of the target. And I think if you're like kissing the post and just slightly putting over the bar, that they're good enough chances that you on another day you would have taken. So I wasn't that concerned by the chances we created. Marco, jump in.
Yeah, just off topic. It's something I've wrote down here. So I'll be going on our social media later. We normally put the sofa scores ratings down for the night. And I think one really big factor is we never really see, even when we've been winning games comfortably, you never see the high ratings. Fitzsimmons got a 9.1 last night, which I think is pretty telling. And yeah, I thought the best player on the pitch was one for them, who's somehow only got a 6.7, and that was Will Flynn. And I think he's on loan from another team had mentioned, but I can't remember what team it was, possibly Sunderland. But again, don't quote me. But he was very impressive.
Yeah,
I'm literally googling that player now to see whether or not you're right, Marco. So if you don't hear it from us, then you're right. But if you're wrong, we'll bring it up.
Yeah, he played quite well. A bit of a difference between Gateshead and Sunderland in terms of ability.
It's a team up there.
Northeast, yeah.
Northeast.
Max, we're talking about Fitzsimmons. He was very impressive on Tuesday night against Darlington. He's been really impressive this season. Do you think we were a bit too reliant on him at times?
Look, good goalkeepers win your points and they win your games. Even if you're a good side, I think back to the last time Scunthorpe won any division, which was 06-07. Murphy was terrific that season. He was a very well deserved winner of the League One Goalkeeper of the Year. Voted for by his peers. He was in the League One Squad of the Year as well. That's not luck. If your goalkeeper has a good game and the other strikers don't take their chances, or vice versa for that matter, that's not luck. So we've probably been due a really good performance from Fitzsimmons because we know he's got that in his locker. He's shown us it before, but there's been a couple of moments within the sort of last 4 or 5 weeks where it's been a little bit disappointing. I think of the goal at Spennymoor, for example. So I'm really pleased for that. I think he deserves that, and hopefully it'll be good for his confidence because goalkeepers often you don't need them for a month, but then you go through a spell where you really, really need them. So anything that's good for his confidence is a good thing in my book. Just on what you said there, Barra, because you were thinking that you were maybe a little bit in the minority and not totally hating the performance. I believe there was 181 there on Tuesday night. What was the atmosphere like? Was it just everyone stood there shivering? Because that
It,
away end that is wretched at Darlington as well. It's just a bank, an open area. It's worse than Leamington.
it was freezing. I don't know if anybody saw my picture on Twitter before the game. I took a picture of the pitch about an hour before kickoff, and you could see the frost covering.
You could. I mean, I didn't think the pitch at Darlington when he got called off last year, it looked better than that.
I thought you'd gone to watch the W's playing in Iceland.
Yeah.
He's probably going to go back for some warm weather.
Yeah, I said that actually. Yeah, when he saw Williams warming up and he looked like it was tropical. But yeah, I mean, I thought I was there to watch an ice hockey match at one point. But yeah, it was cold. The fan, it's difficult. The fans that go on a Tuesday night away to Darlington are pretty hard, pretty hardcore as it is. They're not ones that are kind of on the wind, going to flutter on the wind. So no, there was no booze. There was a little bit of disappointment, a few grumbles, but I don't think it's a really good pool size, if you know what I mean, Max, because really the good barometer is.
Oh, what are you now, YouGov? Well, I don't think it's a representative sample of the different demographics here. How are we weighting it by age?
Well, my point is, if you listen to the Donny Road end on Saturday, if we don't beat Alfreton, that's probably a more reflective, viewpoint of where the fans are, rather than.
But that's also different, isn't it? Like, particularly if you've just won on the Saturday, going away from home and getting a point at Darlington. Well, let's face it, we got spanked last year. Is a defendable result in my view. Even if the performance isn't great, that is a defendable result. If we'd gone there and maybe drawn 2-2, played really well, scored, created chances, maybe the ref's not great, you'd be happy enough with the point. It's the performance. But then at home to Alfreton on the Saturday, you're not in front of 181. You're in front of 3,500. That's different.
Yeah, I guess my question for you, Max, would be before the Darlington game, you and I obviously recorded the podcast, and I'd said prior to the Leamington game, I will take 4 points, which we beat Leamington, obviously drew with Darlington, so that was my 4. I was happy with that. And before the Darlington game, you said you wanted 4 points from the next 2, so we've taken 1. Therefore, we need to beat Alfreton. If we don't beat Alfreton on Saturday, is that very much a disappointment? Do we actually really need to beat them then?
Yes and yes. I think we need to beat Alfreton, but we need to put in a good performance at home where you go, that's better, closer to some of the performances we saw earlier this season, or at the very, very least, scrape a win by hook or by crook. Because, I was at Leamington, braved the wind and the rain, and it was good. It was good away performance, particularly in the second half. But if we're going to be up near the top of the table, even if it's just in the playoffs, you have to be winning home games consistently. And we haven't had a good performance at home for a while now. Again, I was there at Wellington Rylands, and it was pretty crap, particularly in the second half. Alfreton are no mugs, but we beat them at home last season, and we need to be beating them on Saturday. Go on, Marco. You were waving. You were looking like the traffic warden.
I think it's absolutely vital. I really do. Expect a good performance and a win. Look, like Max says, the last few games have been terrible. There's no sugarcoating it. It really has not been good enough. And look, you've seen it with attendances, and it's no secret we're stretched financially. I know half-season tickets came on sale today. Look, who's buying a half-season ticket to come and watch us at the minute at home? Not me. But just not. I mean, I'll be there because I'm stupid. But for a normal fan,
you didn't need to say because. You could have said and.
Yeah. So for that normal fan who's 50-50, do I go down? There's no pull at the minute to come watch us. We're not playing that free flowing attacking football, and it's not even a case of getting 3 points anymore. It's like, God. And I mean, that last night, Tuesday, was not a good advert for the game.
Now there's a clue to the listeners and the viewers that we're recording this on Wednesday evening.
We're just too keen. But yeah, no, look, Saturday is really, I think, right. We need to put on a show before Christmas. After Alfreton, there's 2 weeks off. So look, I think it's huge. Hopefully a good gate and a good return on the pitch.
Just before we go on to discuss Alfreton, I've got to the bottom of Marco talking about the Darlington midfielder. So I thought you said Will Flynn. Yeah. Which is fair. because Will Flynn took me to a midfielder in 2008. However, Will Flynn, he is on loan. He's on loan to them from Donny though. But what I would say, in fairness, he's only 18. So
if
you're putting in good performances age 18, Barra's probably an exciting.
Salah's just missed a penalty.
I was going to say either something's exciting's happened in the football or Cat has flashed him.
No, very unlikely. Can I just give a shout out to my friend, Mr. Alan Burgess, big time Liverpool fan? He asked me to give a shout out on this pod tonight. I didn't know how I was going to work it in. Considering Salah's just missed a penalty, well, yeah, mate. I hope you.
There's your new contract, Mo.
I hope you're crying into your sandwich tonight.
I thought you was going to give a shout out to Mo Salah. Then I thought you got really.
What did he bump into him at Darlington yesterday? Driving up and down the A19.
He's like every single away team that plays us. They're huge fans of the podcast, apparently.
Yeah, massive fans. Yeah. So Marco, we've obviously spoken about Mark Beck on previous podcasts, and he played ever so well on Saturday against Leamington. Tuesday night, it didn't really click for him. What do you think's going on there? Is it formations?
Yeah, I beg to differ. I thought he did okay last night. I thought it looked better when Whitehall came off. Look, he's a busy bastard. He is literally a bastard. Their commentators were getting really.
What? Literally? Do you know what?
Literally, he's literally one.
You're accusing Mrs. Becker playing away from home.
No,
that's
not what it means either, Max. That's not what it means.
All right, a bit of pre-match entertainment.
Yeah.
Their commentators were literally saying
that is underrated, mate. That got missed. Can I just say that is an astounding comment.
Very, very, very good. Yeah, as you could tell in our chat before this, Barra and Marco were debating the meaning of the word astounding, because that's the kind of exciting pre-podcast chat we have.
But yeah, coming back to Beck, their commentators, he never got away with that in a Darlington shirt, and we know exactly what to expect, and that's what he is. And look, I really do think when we get sort of wingers on the pitch, or we do sort of find our legs going forward. Obviously, we have changed shape now. I think we are going to see the best out of Beck. And I can't remember who tweeted it yesterday, but we said, look, Beck didn't get all those goals by defenders launching it 50, 60 yards up to him. We need balls into the box.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned earlier off the podcast, look, I know we've all been crying out to get rid of five at the back, but it's not the case of five at the back doesn't work. There is a time and a place for it. And look, yesterday, if that kept width out wide, getting balls into Beck, that's when we needed it. It was the case, but he was just reluctant to change it. Look, we don't need five at the back at home to Warrington Rylands. We don't need five at the back at home to Buxton. Down and away, you could have maybe understood it if it had got more width. But yesterday, just going forward, just seemed to lack any ideas and width in this sort of diamond. But I saw a few people online, Whitehall and Beck doesn't work. And that is going to be a really big decision for Butler.
I think it's too premature to say that in my view.
I think both very similar. I think Butler's got a big decision to make, because neither of them are going to be happy on the bench.
I'm not sure they are very similar. I know Whitehall's a big lad, but I don't think he's a traditional target man in the sense that Beck is. I mean, we haven't seen it at home. I don't think we have enough luxury options.
We haven't got a big enough pool size, have we, mate?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like it.
To see whether or not it works, I think it worked. I think it worked at Leamington, where we were able to keep the ball on the floor a little bit more, probably because of the conditions. But look, this is something that we saw all the time with Scunthorpe when we play Steve Torpey up front, for example. If you're under pressure and if you're away from home and you're not playing that great, it's the easy option. Straight away, you can go, right, we've got an out ball. Let's get up the pitch. Let's minimise the mistakes, because that has been something we have done in too many games, particularly away from home, where we've maybe tried to overplay or the option's not quite there, so we're trying to force something. I don't really have an issue. I also thought when he brought Scales on for Whitehall, I thought that was a pretty reasonable substitution, to be fair. Try and get an extra pair of legs into midfield. Beck did look a little bit better. But as a striker, you're always reliant on service. I think it's far, far too easy to say, yeah, I like the option of them two as a partnership. I think we've got to give it a proper crack at the whip. And if we're going to be playing a diamond or a 4-3-1-2 or a 4-2-2-2 or whatever you want to call it, we've got to give it time. I thought it worked at Leamington, and it being at home, it's going to be a different ball game because it's going to be easier for us to get higher up the pitch. It's going to be easier for Beeson to drift wide, for Brogan to drift right, maybe for the fullbacks to push higher up the pitch, depending on the situation and the context of where we've got the ball and where Alfreton's threats are coming from. Because look, we know about the games against Alfreton, they did it. They sat deep. They were a little bit more physical. They tried to frustrate us. So we are going to get more opportunities to push bodies forward. I don't know what you think, Marco, but go on.
I've got a question. Off topic. No, I fully get what you're saying about it. I know it's early days, but just from what I've seen so far, me personally, I don't like it. But like you said, home games against, again, all respect to Alfreton against a lesser side. It's going to be a physical game. 2 might be the option, but.
Well, I'm not even necessarily sure they're a lesser side. If they win their games in that,
have a minute.
they'll be above us in the table.
Yeah, no, but look, we're massive. But no, what I'm saying, I'd be interested to see how you guys see Williams fitting in, because I thought when he came on yesterday, he looked really, really good.
You stole my bloody question, mate.
So I did wonder.
Well, see, people always say, "Oh, is it scripted, fella?" Exhibit 126.
Nobody says that, mate. Nobody watches this and say, "I'll tell you what, that is so professional. I think that's scripted."
No. I didn't say professional and scripted are two different things, young man.
The only reason I asked that is because if obviously say Whitehall and Beck are starting, he doesn't seem to want to push Roberts out wide. I don't think he pushed Williams outside. So just interested to see where he'll fit.
But where do you think he fits into this then? Because let's be real about the situation that Butler has explained to us. He said he sees him as a number 8. So
I played 2 cams, Robertson, Williams behind Beck.
So two 10s basically.
Yeah,
2 10s makes an 8 apparently.
That's just me personally.
My personal concern right now as to where Williams fits in is as a number 10 when Roberts leaves in January.
We're saying this, aren't we? Like it's going to happen, but so what are we thinking? I think
there? Concern in my partial defence.
Yeah. So right, let me explore this a little bit more. The fact that we're saying is going to leave in January, the fact that a lot of people are saying that, then points to the fact that are you suggesting a league club will come in? Because if it was to a club either in our division or the one above, he can go at any time. It doesn't have to be January. He could have gone in October. He could go in November or December. Do you know of a league club
so it doesn't necessarily imply that there's different movements of the food chain that can happen.
Okay.
If you get to a halfway point in the season and you're a club that makes that assessment. Look, no, I don't. But I think I don't think Williams is a number 8. I am not going to pretend that I do. I think he's a number 10. I think he showed that for us at the top end of League One. That's where it was. And if you play him as a number 8, I think you, particularly against a big, strong physical side, part-time team of plumbers, as some people like to say at this level, you risk not using Williams' strengths appropriately. Look, I would love to be proved wrong. I'll play him as a winger. I don't think Williams, particularly if you were playing something like a 4-2-3-1, I think Williams drifting in off the right or the left-hand side, linking up with whoever, could potentially be quite effective. But in terms of Roberts, if you're an Oldham, if you're a York, a Forest Green,
Rochdale?
Yeah, well, somebody who's Rochdale maybe haven't got the cash, but if you're someone who's thinking we've got a little bit of a vacancy in our position, we just maybe need a little bit of extra quality in the final third to get to look at 95 points theoretically, or just to give us that push, and you're looking around and you're thinking well, there's a player in the league below who we know has got the quality if we can keep him fit, like Scunthorpe have kept him fit so far this season. He might not be that expensive because I fear we'd want to get him off the wage bill. He's out of contract in the summer anyway, so any cash we got off a club for him would be a bonus. I could see it playing that way if I'm being glass half empty.
Yeah, not just that either. These teams that you mentioned, obviously, Oldham's, York, even your Gateshead, obviously, he's from up there, isn't he, Roberts?
Gateshead, yeah.
These players,
Roberts and Butterfield in the same side, rocking and rolling.
These players might lose players to League Two teams or League One teams.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah, so look, Roberts, he's got to be. Look, football now, if you're going down like the Brighton model, whatever, it's very stats based, and teams will be looking at Butterfield stats in this league, and I think he's very impressive, and I'll be amazed if there's no one looking at him.
One thing you mentioned a couple of minutes ago there, Max, was about, I know it's tongue in cheek, but plumbers and builders and all the rest of it. Now, I have a bit of a talking point. So I received a text yesterday from, a guy we know listens to the podcast, a really good Iron fan, Tom Snowden, who was obviously involved in the Unity match, wasn't he, back in October 2023? Really top Iron fan. And he sent me this text, which I think he'd been sent from his friend. And it kind of got me thinking. I thought, it'd be a really good thing to talk about on the podcast. So the message following the game on Tuesday night read like this. Scunthorpe, we are looking to sign the worst professional players in the country. This is the lowest full-time level, and we have teams in our league signing the best semi-pro players, as the National League is basically a full-time division. And I was thinking about that and thinking, that's an interesting one. So it got me thinking, do you think we are almost restricted by the fact we are one of the few full-time teams in this division, Marco?
I thought he was coming to me. I was ready to
I'll come to you. I will come to you.
Marco. Go.
I think there's a lot more full times in the division than there's ever been. I don't think it's just where it's a case of just us and a couple of others. I think there's over 7 or 8 teams in this division now that are full time.
Buxton went full time this summer as well.
Yeah. Correct. So look, I don't think.
But they lost players. Like Minahan left Buxton to Southport because they went. He couldn't adapt to the. He didn't want to be a full time professional footballer. It was a salary sacrifice.
Look, Blooning's played semi pro for a long time just because nobody could come and take that wage off him to make it worth losing his job. So look, there's definitely an argument for that. 100%. Being restricted, I don't think so. I think we need to be aiming for the best caliber players that can train 5 times a week, 4 or 5 times a week. It's a really good point, because you've got these signing players at the top of their game who it suits training 2-3 times a week, and then just for game of the week. So no, it's a really good point. But obviously, Matt's
Max, before you jump in, let me just give you the second part of the message. So the second part of the message says, I wonder if sometimes there are just really good semi-pro players who earn too much doing 2 jobs, whilst we are recruiting the poorest full-time players.
So I don't necessarily think we are recruiting the poorest full-time players per se. I think of the clubs in this division, of all the full-time sides, and in the National League South, obviously Yeovil were in there last year. I suspect Torquay are full-time as well. I would hope that we're recruiting better players than them. But it is nonetheless a good point. But it's a balancing act, isn't there? There will definitely be some players at this level who are working 2 jobs, who actually go, look, unless I get an offer from probably maybe a higher end League 2 club. Yeah, a higher end League 2 club, it's not going to be worth me giving up my job. There will definitely be a pull to that. But I actually think often those players are quite geographically restricted anyway, because they're going to be based in the Northwest. That's where their other job's going to be. That's where their family's from. Yeah. Whatever it might be, there will definitely be some of those players. I can remember, plug for the book, interviewing a Scunthorpe player, Ivor Williams, playing goal for the Scunthorpe in the late 50s. And he was saying that even playing in the second tier for Scunthorpe at the time, he refused to turn full-time because the club couldn't match the wage he was getting working as like a chemical engineer. There will definitely be some of that going on. But and this is just a value judgment for me based on what I've seen at this level over the last 18 months, I don't think that is as many players as who would be prepared to make that jump for us. I look at somebody like Carlton from Chorley, who was part time, who was prepared to go from playing for a club in the Northwest to just a club the other side of the M62. I look at somebody like Clunan, who I believe he's an accountant.
He is, and he would have. I know for a fact he took a huge pay cut.
So look, this is speculation. It wouldn't surprise me if he's still, there's like vocational qualifications. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's still keeping his toe in it a bit. But I would be.
I love this on the I Know podcast. Speculation that our captain is doing someone's books on the quiet.
Oh, won't surprise me if he's doing ours. But I would. There is no way that somebody that we've matched King or exceeded Kings Lynn plus accountancy, particularly if you're accounting for petrol. Like particular, but somebody has gone, do you know what? I fancy playing in front of 4,000 people or 8,000 when it's at home to Chester. And there's not really any other clubs who can offer you that at this level. And I think that the second number of players, particularly if they haven't had the chance before, who are prepared to make that jump, is greater than the number of players who aren't prepared to make the jump because it doesn't financially make sense for them.
Marco, I can't wait for the end of the season when Michelle pulls Clunan into her office and he's like, "Oh, contract extension? No, mate. Can you do our accounts?"
No, I was thinking I can't get out of the picture on my head. All the guys going out for training. Michelle says, "No, you've got an indoor day, Clunan. I just need you to have a look at this, Michael. The boys will be all right today, but not side to side."
Oh,
shooting practice today, lad. Oh, I love it.
I know he got the goal last year, but will we ever see another Clunan goal?
Do you know if his FIFA card, right? I think it would read passing 99, shooting 0.
I thought he was at the game yesterday.
Yeah. I do think he's a really good passer of the ball, but every time he gets, do you know what? Sorry, I interrupted myself there, but I was about to say, whenever he gets the ball, I'm praying don't shoot. But somebody told me last night he used to be on penalties for Kings Lynn.
Well, I'll give you a big shout here.
I could sort of see that. That's not too dissimilar to why he's sometimes on corners for us.
Yeah, I took my dad to the last home game and listened to this for praise. He said, "I think he's my dad likes his football." He says, "I think he's better." He said, "I think he's better than Karachak." And I went, "Clunan? I bet Clunan was having a bit of a stinker."
Yeah.
He said, "You could tell he's a level above this." I'm like, "Clunan?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "I think he's better than Karachak." I went, "Right, okay." I said,
I can see that. He's a good player.
I believe Karachak played in the Champions League. But
Clunan's getting a Ballon d'Or.
Clunan is probably more akin to what you would get in terms of an Italian style holding midfielder than Karachak is. He's less physical. He's more ball orientated. And I can see why your dad likes him. And look, we like him too.
He's a good player. He's a great player. He is my favourite.
I clearly think he's a really good accountant as well. So look, we'll see what happens on Saturday. But I do sort of fancy to get a win by hook or by crook.
Right, before we move on, I thought we could just have a little chat about the formation. Max, you and I speculated before the Darlington game about what formation we would play. I was convinced that Butler would defer to the 5 at the back. He didn't.
And you were wrong.
He stuck with a 4. You never really committed. I watched it back today just to make sure. You refused to commit. You just pressed me for an answer.
So genuinely, I think I said something along the lines of, if he played 5 at the back, I wouldn't fall off my chair in shock. But I definitely thought we might stick with 4 at the back because we played well. We were unchanged, and if he had gone to 5 at the back and we put in that kind of performance where it doesn't quite click, or heaven forbid if we got beat, he'd have opened himself up to massive criticism.
Well, the question is, why do you think he stuck with a 4 at the back? Do you think because it got us the result on Saturday?
I do.
It don't go any further then. You think it's just that?
Yeah, and the tight turnaround from Saturday to Tuesday. Most likely Players have probably had Sunday off, and then you've come in for Monday. You've done a little bit of light recovery work, maybe a possession session or a set piece session, or something that's not too intensive. You're not flogging the arse out of it with 2 hours of unopposed shape. So, it didn't surprise me. I think the turnaround was a factor as well. We'll see what we go with against Alfreton on Saturday, but on the basis that we are at home, I think he'll stick. I think he'll stick with forward back. It wouldn't surprise me if we were unchanged again, unless there's an injury or two knocking about, which is always a possibility.
Do you think we'll see Nicholson? I'm surprised we won't see Nicholson when we've signed Beck, who is.
I'm being quiet because I said he would come in on Tuesday against Darlington.
The perfect player.
Exactly.
To be chucking them long throws at. And he's not come in. So it's very. SofaScore had us down as a 4-3-1-2, and I think that's probably right.
Yes.
Yeah. And when me and Barrett talked about it on Monday, that was. Don't get me wrong. There were times when Clooney was dropping deeper and it becomes a diamond, but I said that I thought it was a 4-3-1-2. I thought there was enough moments where Brogan was on the right, Beeston was on the left. I look at that as a setup right about now, particularly if Carlton's not playing great, or I think that's a go right now. I do. I think there's mileage in this, particularly at home.
Right. Well, I think we'll move on to the next segment before we start talking about goers and mileage. So let's have our usual.
I was expecting a better joke than that. If you were going to try and make it,
I stopped myself. I'm going to be honest. I caught cat's eye in the corner there and thought I better go no further. So, Marco, do you fancy one?
Hey.
Go on then.
Here we go then. This week's Spy in the Camp. I'm joined this week by sports journalist Josh Smith, and Josh is going to tell us a little bit about Alfreton Town. So, Alfreton obviously coming off the back of a 4-2 defeat on Tuesday night against South Shields. What can you tell us about that game, Josh?
Well, I think from a Scunthorpe United perspective, it's a bit of a false reading. I think they had the goalkeeper sent off in the first half when the game was in the balance, and you're not going to recover from that, whoever you are. I was going to say even if you're Man City, but they're not a good example currently. But, regardless of the quality of a team, you have your goalkeeper sent off early in a game, then you can't look at the second half result and really read much into it, I don't think.
That's fair. I mean, they're currently sitting 9th position. Is that kind of in line with fans' expectations?
Yeah, I think it is. When you take into account that they've still got 2 games in hand over the vast majority of teams as well because of the FA Cup run they've had. You look at it and think, there's 4 points between these 2 teams, but 2 games in hand. So they're pretty much neck and neck in the table. Do often fans expect to be in the playoff places? What I can tell you is often fans are not full of expectation. They're not the sort of fan base who will kick off if a team is doing badly. They'll not kick off if the team loses or falls beneath where they expect them to finish. So in terms of expectations from the fans, there isn't any. In terms of a realistic ambition this season, what I know from speaking to fans is the club have got into the playoffs in the last 2 seasons consecutively. And this season they felt was the best recruitment that they've done over the summer as a club. So with that in mind, the fans felt there was a realistic prospect of the playoffs. And so far, so good.
And you talked there about the previous playoff campaigns. I mean, last season obviously finished 5th in the league and lost. They went the same way Scunthorpe went, actually, losing to Boston on penalties. Yeah. How did that one go down?
I think Boston were very fortunate in both of those games to get through. I'm genuinely astounded they got promoted. I really am. I was at the game, and Alfreton absolutely dominated in that game, and Boston somehow found a way to win. And I feel that it was very similar in the next round against Scunthorpe. Boston were not the better team, in my opinion, and somehow managed to find a way. And I'm not going to criticise them for that. In football, ultimately, it's about it's about getting the victory, and it's not always about who deserves it. That is unfortunate, particularly in the playoffs. That's the nature of the beast. But as I say, the fans were just immensely proud to be there. I would use it in the same bracket of the Notts County game a few weeks ago in the FA Cup. The fans were it was a great day out. you'll often hear Alfreton fans say not bad for a pit village, and that summarises the whole fan base. That they're very much putting things in perspective. For Alfreton to achieve half of what they've achieved, given the size of the town and the history of the town, is absolutely remarkable. I think you'll be hard pushed to find many fans of Alfreton or beyond that will deny that Alfreton are punching above their weight to be in the division they're in. The fact that they're competitive in that division is absolutely remarkable.
One player that stands out for me this season will be Jed Abbey. 7 goals so far. In fact, he got off to a flyer, got 5 goals in his first 6 appearances. Has he been one that's impressed this season?
Definitely. I think when Ken Diggy left, there was a real concern because he was a big physical presence. He was good in both boxes. And for me, Jed Abbey is basically just filled in where he left out. They're not exactly like for like in terms of position, but in terms of characteristics, in terms of how they play the game, they're both very similar. And he's been massively influential, as Diggy was last season. I think for me, I would expect you to say Waldock when you said player that stands out. He's a player who he's been in immense form. He's been a dangerous man. The chairman recently said if he scores again in the next game, it would be 3 games in a row on the score sheet, and he'll buy everybody a drink that was at the game, and that did happen. He's someone that is getting a lot of attention this season. But then you could also look at George Cantrell. I think he's the engine, and he's been absolutely phenomenal for Alfreton in the middle of the park. I'm very concerned regarding how long the club can hold on to him, if I'm honest. But on the flip side, we're talking about players to watch out for. Huge loss not having Willis in goal, of course. Although I don't know whether he'll be allowed to play this weekend because of the window to appeal and things like that. So I think he will be available, actually, which is bad news for Scunthorpe fans.
Yeah, indeed it is. And anybody who kind of knows anything about football at this level will know that. I'm kind of looking ahead to this fixture then and thinking about how Alfreton might line up. Are they a team that tends to set up a little bit differently away from home?
Yeah, I think so. I think they are clever. Again, going back to what I said about Boston, it's just about getting the win. A lot of people criticise Alfreton's style of football. A lot of people will dismiss it and say it's not attractive. I think Billy Heath gets a bad rep. The term Heath ball is used a lot. People say that Alfreton just play hoof ball and long ball. There's a lot more to it than that. And if you watch Alfreton properly, you will see that there's a lot of very quick wing play. It's not being hoofed straight up to the target man. There's a lot of whipped balls. There's a lot of low balls. There's awful lot of one touch, passing, and they find the channels. And it's very good to watch. The build up is very quick. They use the width of the pitch, and the balls into the box tend to come early, but there's a good mixture of different heights and things like that as well. I really enjoy watching Alfreton's football at the minute, and it was the same last season. I think they developed it even more so this year, and I think I dare say, perfected it. Jake Day is a big target man, of course, but I think if you watch him in particular, you'll notice actually it isn't all Route 1 direct to him all the time. You'll notice actually there's an awful lot of players that we've talked about there that are involved. And the fact we're talking about these players as well, between us, we've mentioned 4 different midfielders there. It goes to show Alfreton clearly aren't just this one-directional hoof ball up to the target man, because we're talking about the danger players being the midfielders. So they clearly are utilising that midfield. That said, I think away from home against a team as big as Scunthorpe United, we probably will see a team that are there for the draw. They're happy to run the clock down and play it safe. But they have a habit of nicking a victory doing that as well at some big clubs. And I know from covering the club many years ago and to this day, they've had a habit of going to the big teams and getting the points, because different managers have always said to me, we're written off. When they go away to the likes of, Kidderminster and Stockport in the past when I've covered them, people write them off and assume they ain't going to get anything. And that always seemed to instill some fire in the players, and they turned up for the big occasion. And I think we saw that at Notts County. The scoreline, of course, looked a heavy defeat, but actually, if you're at that game, they gave it a really good go, and they seemed to relish being in front of bigger crowds and in more impressive stadiums. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Alfreton play more negatively. And I think anyone listening to this might listen to me waxing lyrical about this exciting build-up play and then go on Saturday and think, what on earth was he talking about? But in the reverse fixture at the Impact, I think you're more likely to see that.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're a pragmatic team, and I think from a Scunny perspective, let's just hope it's not one of those days on Saturday where you turn up and nick one at the death. If I had to press you for a score prediction, how do you see this one playing out?
In all honesty, I like to be an optimist, and I would love to say that I think I can see Alfreton nicking it. But I think realistically, I think Scunthorpe probably will win this one. I'd probably say
Can I just
2-1
tell you,
Scunthorpe.
Josh, two on Scunthorpe again? Can I just tell you, we've not looked fantastic of late. I mean, we did pick up a really good win against Leamington on Saturday, but I was at Darlington on Tuesday night and lucky to get a point, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big believer in the form guide, which is controversial to say, but I just think form starts and finishes, and nobody can predict in advance where that's going to be. We can all have a good guess. And I think so. I try and ignore form sometimes. I just look at it as, how good are this team? And we've seen this season and previously how good Scunthorpe United are. We've seen how good Alfreton are, but they've made the impact a real fortress. I mean, they were very unlucky to lose that record unbeaten streak at home to Spennymoor. A game that they absolutely dominated. I think the only reason they lost it really is I'm a big believer when you play a team in back-to-back games, the team that loses learns the most from that encounter, and they'd just beaten them in the cup. And
Yeah,
Spennymoor came back and learned from that defeat. Alfreton didn't learn as much from the victory and ultimately lost in the league. But, aside from that, they've made the impact a real fortress. On the road, they do okay. But I just feel the occasion and the fact it's away from home will be a little bit too much. I think Scunthorpe know that they need to turn the form around. I think maybe there's a little bit of complacency at Scunthorpe, with those games. And I think Alfreton coming in, it's a tight one. Alfreton only 4 points behind them. And I just feel that Scunthorpe know they need to turn it around. As you say, there's little green shoots coming through, and I can see them winning it. I don't think it's going to be a walkover. I think if we went back in time 5 years and said Scunthorpe hosted Alfreton, you'd be expecting a 4 or 5-0 defeat
no,
for
that's
Alfreton.
true enough. Yeah,
But I don't. I think that I think Alfreton will be competitive. They will shut up shop. Um, but I think Scunthorpe will edge it. But as I say, I wouldn't if you come to me next week and say Alfreton won it 1-0 and it was a 87th minute winner and it was their only shot of the game, I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised either.
well, thank you very much for your insight there, Josh. You enjoyed that one. It was good to have an analytical viewpoint because it's not something we're used to on this podcast.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. And I've got no issue with Scunthorpe as a club at all. I've been to Glanford Park a few times. I live in Alfreton. I support Alfreton, but I, of course, want them to win. But I think ultimately it'll be a very good game of football.
Well, they were the thoughts there of football journalist Josh Smith. I think 8 years is a bit of pro now, so it's great to have an insight there. And as I just mentioned, it's probably one of the most analytical ones we've had. We've already talked really about the game against Alfreton and how we see that one coming up. So we'll jump straight into the hero, idiot, and moment of the week. Marco, who's your hero of the week?
I thought he was going to get a score prediction out of it. Oh, rubbish.
Oh, yeah, we need a score prediction for Alfred.
We can chuck one in if you want.
You go first.
I think
this is a revolt. Me and Marco go, no, we're not doing
okay,
this.
right. We'll win
Me and Matt's
5.
sick of being used for predictions.
Right, we'll win 5-0.
Oh,
5-0. Marco, what are you saying?
When you said you caught cat's eye, was she getting LSD out for you? Was that what it was?
Guys, we are on the clock here. 5-0.
I'm confident. Yeah, I'm going 4-1 Iron.
Nice. Max?
I'll go for 1-0 Scunny.
Beautiful. Right, Marco, hero of the week.
My hero, it's going to be a popular one, and I'm not just doing it for points. It was genuinely really interesting to see. It's Gemma Richardson, local girl from Scunthorpe. She just turned pro for boxing. There was an article on Fight Post. I saw it on Facebook, but obviously from a Fight Post originally. It's just on about her missing out on the GB team, obviously going through the struggles this year, and now turning pro and looking ahead to a first professional fight, which looks to be the early start of next year. So look, Gemma's done a lot for us for the podcast. She's come to the charity games, and look, if we can shout about Scunthorpe, that's something we want to do. So really good luck to Gemma. I know the podcast guys were looking forward to going and watching her when she does have a fight. So yeah, she's my hero of the week.
Yeah, that's a cracking answer that. Max, who's your hero of the week?
Not as good an answer as that. My nominations this week are quite Saturday heavy because I think it was one of them games that I think you're going to remember for a while, just in terms of everything around it, new ground, pissing wet through. everything. My hero of the week is a joint one. It's whoever at Leamington's idea it was to put the shuttle bus on from the train station. It was absolutely terrific. It was free. It was dry. It was door to door, and it got me back in time. I was on the 21 minutes past 5 train, and the next 2 had been cancelled. So I was flapping a bit. Oh God, am I going to make it? No, the shuttle bus was the first thing out of there. Second, absolutely bang on. And on the shuttle bus there, a Leamington fan just decided that he didn't want his pot of loaded fries. I don't know where he got them from, but they were absolutely banging. They were so delicious. So a joint hero of the week from me. But just give Marco the point. It's going to be Gemma.
Well, yeah, mate. You just talked about trains, buses, and chips, so Marco gets the point.
I'm sorry for timing it. Massive big up to Leamington because their whole week of information, access, and obviously with the trains and stuff, really good. Yeah, spot on. Very good and
fantastic chips too. Max, who's your idiot of the week?
Right, my idiot of the week has still got a Leamington flavour. So he's a big friend of the podcast. Ryan, who's the drummer at the back of the Donny Road end, was told by Leamington that he wasn't allowed to bring his drum in because of quote complaints from the neighbours. Now, anyone who went on Saturday will know that there are no fucking neighbours. The Leamington steward was apparently alleging that a farmer 3 fields down didn't like the noise. Clearly tolerates the tannoy. So again, it would be a joint one for me. It would be the farmer who's complained and the Leamington head of security or whoever it is that's made that decision, because it was absolutely ridiculous. You could have definitely had a drum. I think it really adds to the atmosphere when Ryan gets on it, and it was just bizarre. It was there were no neighbours. There was nobody near that ground. I knew a Scully fan who'd been quoted 50 quid for a return taxi from the centre of Leamington to the ground. It's down a farm track that has no footpaths. It's not really in Leamington, to be honest. It was just bizarre. Boggles the mind. But shout out to Ryan anyway. He's a great lad.
Yeah. Okay. Can we mute his mic or something? Anyway, Marco, who's your idiot of the week?
And he's back from holiday.
We were going to repatriate him, weren't we?
Yeah, we were trying to get a flight back for him, weren't we? My idiot of the week is the only right answer, and it fills me with joy.
Is it Mo
Guardiola?
Oh, I thought you were going to go Mo Salah for a second.
No. It is Pep Guardiola. The man's beating himself up over 6 losses in a row. God, imagine if he was the scum.
It's not 6 now.
Not 6 losses in a row. No wins in 6. But in fact, nice little record for you. His 1 win, 1 draw, 5 losses, 1-1-5, which is the same as the Charges. So it's very fitting.
How long have you been waiting to crack that
welcome
joke
to the real world, Pep. We've got to make the most of it till January when he goes and asks Daddy Shake for another 800 million. Yeah. So my idiot of the week is Pep Guardiola.
And in fairness, losing a 3-0 lead at home to Feyenoord when they start singing "You'll Never Walk Alone" and the slot chants. In many ways, that's worse than a defeat because that's just banter.
I thought Warrington Rylands were bad, but look, we don't realise how much we've got it.
Surely the only time Warrington Rylands and Feyenoord have ever been compared in the same sentence. Oh, look at Barry. He's giving it the old watch, his old Ferguson thing now.
You're going way over, guys. Right, so I'm going to give the points to Max on that occasion. Hero, idiot, and so what was your moment of the week, Max?
My moment of the week was the weather at Leamington. Just when you stood in the away end, and see, there we go. Look, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. There was a bit down the side between the standing area and the seating area, where there was so much standing water that a fair few of us, of different generations, commandeered beer crates to make them into our own little terrace. And I could just remember the moment when we all turned around and laughed at each other and went, didn't get this at Bramall Lane, did you? Or Portsmouth, all the big grounds we've been at. If you'd have said, right, you'll be making your own stand to make sure that you don't get soaking wet through at Leamington out of beer crates. That's proper football, that is. My moment of the week.
Yeah.
Okay, Marco?
To be fair, it's funny to say that Portsmouth's game has been called off tonight because of floodlight failure when the Millwall fans had just got there.
I know Becky's a big fan, actually, of Portsmouth away, I hear. Marco, your
My moment, I'm sure everybody has seen it, and if I don't give a points here, it's Roy Keane offering the fans out into the car park after the game. I love Roy Keane as a man and as a pundit, and that were really funny to watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you the points there, Mark. That's a class answer. So we just, and I literally mean just, have enough time for Marco to give us an FPL update. Playing for time until he gets.
You've just cut 10 seconds off saying it that slowly. But right, I'll run through it really quickly. So top of the league, we've still got Paul Crewe, and he's got 785 points. Really impressive. Bottom of the league, sorry, Darren Hughes, 263rd. So some Iron Hours listeners that we've picked out, obviously interacting with us on Twitter about the fantasy football. We've got Jack Evans up to 45th, Cal Morton into 54th, Dave Green down into 67th, Ben Maidman up into 96th with 649 points, and Nick Bell has dropped all the way down to 251st. So, the ones you've all been waiting for, us guys on the podcast, we've still got Becky.
It's bad. It's bad. I've had the worst 2 months of this coming.
You'll say it again, Marco.
Yeah, Max has crumbled. We've still got Becky up around 47. She's 47th. Memes 60th. Gareth 114th. Barrow 168th. And Max 172nd.
I reckon in the last sort of 6 to 7 weeks, I've fallen over 100 places.
Oh,
yeah. You're basically Man City.
Yeah, but we will rise again. Max is going to spend some serious money in January.
Max is like, oh, Daddy Shake, please.
I'm thinking about maybe a mid-season sign for Danny Welbeck. Something exciting.
I think the big one is how long can you keep Haaland?
Yeah,
that's the big one. Last week we mentioned there'll be a prize this week, and the winner of that is Oliver Dixon. He got the most points in our league this week. His team, Andy Butler's Barmy Army, which we all are. Now we're playing forward back again. And he's coming in 65th, and he's made 97 points this week, which is really impressive. Big standouts were Salah, Wan-Bissaka. I watched that game. Wan-Bissaka, as a one-on-one defender, is immense. Pedro Porro and Nico Jackson. So, yeah, massive well done to Oliver Dixon. If you get in touch with us, we'll send you a voucher for £10 for a club shot. Yeah, that's FPL in a nutshell.
I've just had a look at my team and I've realised what's going wrong. Why I've been playing so badly. So I'm playing 3 at the back.
Yeah, well, you know what we say. You don't want a cheap option.
No, correct. Love that. So yeah, Oliver Dixon, if you get in touch with us on either Facebook, Twitter, I mean, you can harass us at a game if you want, and we'll sort you out with your £10 voucher for the club shop.
So, it'll be like Roy Keane. Mark will meet you in the car park.
Oh no, you don't want that.
I'm in a trench coat. I'm in a trench coat, but that's all.
Yeah. Again. Right then. Thanks for tuning in.
He better be over 16.
And on that bombshell.
Thank you for tuning in once again to the Iron Out podcast. I mean, if this is the last one, it's been a fucking blast. That's all I'll say. Yeah, what a ride. No. Have a good one, guys. I will see you on Saturday. Up the iron.